T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
You are now tapped into the coolest reptile podcast in the world. I'm your boy, MJ. Welcome to Trap Talk's Holy Lizard session on a Sunday. Best believe if you're scared, go to church. No, I'm just kidding. Stay right. It's going to be an awesome episode. But what is good, everybody? Hope everyone's ready for a great episode. If this is your first time tapping in, I hope you are having a great Sunday. Well, even if you're a returning person, hope everyone's having a great Sunday. But if you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know this channel is wrapped around the keeping and breeding and the love of reptiles. Okay, so if this is something that you're into, definitely going to want to hit that subscribe button. You want to hit that notification bell. That way you're not slept on any guests that I bring to this channel. And then also make sure you drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you're liking best out of these episodes. Let me know what you like best from the guests, and let me know who you want me to bring to the episode. I mean, to the channel. I mean, I'm not opposed to hearing anyone thoughts on who they want me to bring to the show, man. But I hope everyone's having a great day. Shout out to the early birds. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday here with us. But before we move forward, this episode is brought to you by Freedom Breeder, baby, the #1 stainless steel rack company in the game, made in the United States since the 90s, man. If you got a Freedom Breeder rack, you know where it's at. Shout out to Jesse and the entire Freedom Breeder crew. Thank you for your sponsoring and your support. Hope you guys are having a great time over at Daytona. If you guys are at Daytona right now, man, Daytona looks fun. I'm not gonna lie. I had a little bit of FOMO not being at Daytona. So if you're at Daytona right now, or if you are coming home from Daytona, I hope you had an amazing time. Drop a comment. Let me know how Daytona went. And I'm not missing Daytona next year. I mean, that's a fact, okay? Couple of shameless plugs, guys. If you want to know what I have going on outside the podcast, if you want to know what projects I work with, what I'm into as far as reptiles and whatnot, best thing to do is go give me a follow on Instagram, MJ Exotics Cartel, with an A, not an E. Also, make sure you go follow my other YouTube channel, the Snake Trap Sessions Vlogs, where I drop a weekly vlog for all my trappers out there, okay? So if you want to see some content of me putting out me working with some of my projects, and go give me a subscribe to that channel on YouTube there. And then also make sure you go subscribe to Trap Talk Clips, where you can see all the past guests that I had with some of the most awesome topics. And really appreciate it. Gotta say, last but not least, shout out to my Patreon members. If you are looking to be more than if you want to be a part of more than what you see here on the podcast, best thing you do is go down to the link below, click on the Trap Talk Patreon link, and join the Patreon family. As soon as you join the family, you get tapped in to the Discord. And with over 100 trappers, man, we got so many different things going on in the Discord, and it's nonstop popping. I'm telling you right now. So I got to say, first and foremost, thank you to all my Patreon members. I don't deserve you guys, but I have you, and I love you guys. I'm going to actually I already started doing this. So check this out. I got exclusive content being put out on the Patreon page as well. Just started putting out my own vlogs that are only for my Patreon members. I'm going to tell you what it's about. You got to go check it out. I'm telling you right now. But I got to say, my Patreon members, my family, La Familia, I love you guys. We are going to go to the top. And yeah, man, if you want to join the family, come fuck with us. I cannot wait. Wow, Holy Lizard session. I love talking about monitors, lizards, all the above. You know, this channel is so primarily wrapped around the ball pythons. You know what I mean? And nothing against the ball pythons. I love the ball pythons. I love green tree pythons. I love snakes, you know, but there's not one time I don't frown upon bringing a guest when it's about monitors, lizards, the real dinosaurs of this game, I feel like. So we have today a lovely guest, a female guest, working with some amazing animals. Came highly recommended from my buddy Alex Meyer. Shout out to homie Alex. You guys know I had Alex on the show a few months back, and he name dropped Kasey, Zion Hills Exotics, and I best believe I tapped right into that right after the episode. And sure enough, I was like, holy shit, we got to get her on the show. It took a little bit, but you know what? It's going to go down. So before we tap into tonight's guest, I want to say shout out to everyone again in this early birds who's here right now, who's ready for a good show. HB Reptiles, what is good? Trap Talk Patreon member in the building. Shout out to the homie HB. He's going to be working with some crazy heat. He's already putting out crazy heat and has really invested in himself. If you want to talk about fucking saying fuck corporate America and working for myself, this guy is creating a story for himself right now as we speak. And he's a Trap Talk Patreon member. That's my boy. Shout out to the homie Herbert. Heathen Hatchery, what is good? Trap Talk Patreon member in the building. D's Reptiles making some rave candy at his pad. I'm just kidding. He's actually making bait for his fishing, but it was really colorful and stuff like that. I thought he was making bracelets and shit like that. And I was like, whoa. Anyways, shout out to homie Dylan, Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Shout out to Blake over at Royal Bama Reptiles, Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. The homie Joshua, what is good, homie Josh? Tapping in. Homie, let's see who. Oh, Chantel in the building. What's up, Chantel? Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Thanks for tapping in. Wise guys, what is good? The homie Sean Perry, what is good? Sound Serpents, give him a follow. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Phoenix Rose, are those really your eyes? No, those aren't your eyes. Are those really your eyes? Fuck, that's a trip. Thanks for tapping in, Phoenix. Ricky Bobby, one of the newest Patreon members to become a part of the Trap Talk Patreon family. Thanks for tapping in, Ricky. And honestly, thanks for being a real one. This will come through with the support. I don't think his real name's Ricky Bobby, but we're going to go with that every time I see him. Shout out to homie Ricky Bobby. Damn, look at this homie. JKJ Reptiles in the building. Thanks for tapping in. The homie Triple G in the building. What is good? Thanks for tapping in. My wife working out in the living room, tapping in. What is good? Thank you so much, wife. Hexy in the building. What is good? Thanks for tapping in. Trap Talk Patreon member. Python Patrol. What is good? Thanks for tapping in. The homie Silver Cash 86 making the bombest pizzas on the East Coast. What is good? Thanks for homegirl Lily in the building. What's up, Lily? Trap Talk Patreon member. By the way, Silver Cash Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Joshua Cooper. What is good? Thanks for tapping in. Big Mike 1776 Exotics. Okay, can we plug this in real quick? Just so you guys know, Monday, going down tomorrow, we have somebody who's tapping in from the southern part of Florida. It's a big homie Mike. Be ready because it's going down tomorrow night, right? Tomorrow's Sunday. Wait, tomorrow. I'm so confused right now. What is tomorrow? Tomorrow is Sunday. No, today's Sunday. I'm so sorry, guys. Tomorrow's Monday, and that's what's going down. New Breed on the Block series. I got my buddy Mike from 1776 Exotics. Super thick in the ball python game, but also just as thick, about to be just as thick in the green tree python game. We have so much to talk about, a lot of awesome topics coming to the table. So make sure you guys are ready for that. Make sure you guys go down to the link, set your reminders because it's going to be it's going to be an awesome episode. We're going to end the early bird comments in style with the homie Alex because it's my boy Alex. And if it wasn't for Alex, I want to have this guest in front of me right now. Shout out to homie Alex, my boy right here. Actually, me and Alex got some plans down the road, huh, Alex? Can't wait. Hit me up about that. Let me know when the date get closer. You know, I'm talking about you flying in and helping me out. All right. Anyways, my boy Alex, thank you so much. All right. Enough is enough. Tonight's guest is going to be tapping us in with her projects. As crazy as excited I sound about the lizards and monitors, she just had a blackhead python clutch as well. This is just going to be a fucking awesome episode. I hope you guys are sitting tight. I hope you guys are ready because we are going to get this show cracking right now. Here we go. Zion Hills Exotics. Let's go. Choo!
Good.
You ready for do more in the future? Trap Talk podcasts?
Yes.
Man.
Only Trap Talk. Exclusive.
Yes.
Exclusive. Oh.
So stop calling us.
Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crop, gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up.
And we're live. Kasey Schultz, Zion Hill Exotics. What is up, girl?
Hey, thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm excited. I'm so happy to be here with you. I mean, I can already tell that your PA vibes. I mean, I got family that lives in PA, and I have a couple uncles that have like not the same setup, but just reminds me of what you have going on. And I already miss the East Coast. damn, I love Pennsylvania. My heart lives in PA. I'm telling you right now. But anyways, what part of PA are you in, if you don't mind? Let's start from there.
I'm like 45 minutes outside of Philly, a little bit closer to Allentown, if anyone's familiar. But my business name, Zion Hill Exotics, comes from my exact location, which is Zionsville, and I live on a hill. So I'm Zion Hill Exotics, in case anyone was ever wondering where I came up with that.
I love it. I mean, I like names that like it has a story behind it. You know what I'm saying? It's not like the obvious, like, you know, usually someone's first initial or something like that, or, you know, it's kind of like the go-to, which I wish people put a little bit more thought into their names. You know, it's such a like cliche things. Everything has exotics. Not only that, but like everything has their name with exotics or their name with reptiles. You know, like I like a story, so I think that's pretty awesome.
It's important. I went to school for graphic design, so I can appreciate logos and business names and things of that sort. It makes a difference. So I agree.
That's awesome. Now, before we get into what's currently happening with your collection right now, let's kind of talk Zion Hill Exotics. Like, you know, what kind of girl were you growing up? Were always into herps and stuff like that, or did this love come after, you know, a while of growing up?
Yeah, I have the most untraditional, unexciting reptile background. I was terrified of snakes growing up, had zero interest in reptiles. People always ask me, like, how did you get into reptiles? I still don't really know, to be quite honest. My husband was in the military, and one of his buddies had a iguana in his dorm room, and I kind of fell in love with this iguana, which then turned into my first like traditional leopard gecko, then bearded dragon, and then so on and so forth. And here I am with now an entire collection full of stuff.
I mean, I want to say it's not common, but it happens. There's stories like this where, like, you know, reptiles just landed on someone's lap at an age and they're just like, holy shit. Like it became, you know, it's way people become dog lovers too. There's a lot of people that don't know that they're dog lovers until they own a dog and they're like, oh my God, like, you know, this is my child, you know, it's the same thing, you know?
Exactly. And it was so bizarre because when I first started getting really interested in reptiles, I just thought I was weird. And my husband and I were watching TV, and there's an advertisement for the Hamburg Reptile Expo is like a half hour from me. And it finally clicked that I'm not the only person on the planet that likes reptiles. And I went to this Reptile Expo, and that just opened all the doors for what has become of what I keep now.
I don't think it should have shocked me a lot more when I realized that there was a whole world, you know, because I'm kind of like you. Like, I mean, here's the thing. I've always loved reptiles. Like, I was always brought into reptiles, but I never tapped into another friend who had reptiles. Like, it was always just me. It was just me, my lonely self, and my, you know, my pops. And all my friends thought I was either the coolest or the weirdest for having snakes, right? But then when I got older and when I used it as my escape, like, you know, I kind of like throughout my 20s, I DJ'd and tried becoming this DJ I really thought I was, and I wasn't. But I was basically just partying my ass off, and these reptiles kind of made me see a little bit of reality, what I really wanted to do with what I really love. And, you know, that's when I like tapped into things, you know, like I always say, the Brian Barczyk YouTube video, like that was my first fucking discovery with animals. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I thought this guy was like another Steve Irwin. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, you know, and I didn't see no one else like the Steve Irwin, like Barczyk. And no, by any means is Barczyk not a Steve Irwin. I'm just saying, like, last time I remember looking at a television, obsessing over a reptile guy was Steve Irwin. That's when I was a kid. I used to watch that show all the fucking time. Croc Hunter, dude, after Saved by the Bell, I used to fucking put on Croc Hunter and I would just like freak out, and I loved it. And I remember it was not on enough. I wish I had more Croc Hunter. But anyways, I go from that growing up like that, Kasey, to Brian Barczyk reintroducing me to the animals. And so I'm like, holy shit. And so I you know, look at Barczyk the way he is, and then I start going to the reptile shows locally to me. So same thing with you. Like, we have the Pomona Reptile Super Show. By the way, shout out to the sponsor, Reptile Super Show. But dude, wow. I feel like I wanted it so bad that it just went by fast. But like, now that I think about it, a whole world I was not in tune with. I had no idea that this shit was happening like this. It was nuts.
Yeah. I mean, I went to the Reptile Expo, and that was an eye-opener. But then I realized shortly after, like, the Facebook groups, the social media groups, the online forums, like, it was kind of unreal to me. And I tried to explain to people that aren't reptile people, like, no, this is a whole world that I didn't realize existed. I still don't think people appreciate that or can even agree with that. But
one thing I do love about this world is like you have to be in it to understand it. Like you can't, like you won't ever be an outsider looking in saying, I know why you guys do. No, you won't. You don't. You have no idea why we would do what we do unless you're in this shit. And that's why I love it. Like you have to be in. I've had this conversation with multiple people really that I respect in this industry, like talking to me about how just my name Trap Talk, right, is kind of like, I'm only known within the hobby. Like nobody outside the hobby really knows who the fuck I am. You know what I'm saying? So, there's a time and a place where I might have to consider what do I do with that name, but I like to just be known within the hobby. Like I'm okay with not branching out and being like Mr. Commercial Man. I don't think I think I'll run into problems like that, to be honest. I'd rather just do what I do and attract people who love what I love. And that's kind of where I want to keep it at. But holy shit.
I think that's why I gravitate to this community, if you want to call it, so much, is because it is people that truly love what they work with. Now, of course, there's always those few that are the exceptions, but for the most part, it's not about social media fame. It's not about getting your name out there outside of the reptile community. It's about like, hey, we love these animals. We clearly do. I mean, it's time, money, it's energy, it's everything to take care of any animal, let alone, however many people have 15, 20, 30, 100 plus 1,000. I definitely gave up on caring what people think a long time ago. At first I was definitely very strange to my family and friends. Like, what in the world, you're working with reptiles? That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. So not, where I was headed in life. But the reality is I wake up every day thinking about reptiles. There's nothing I can do about it. And I really just don't care anymore what anyone else thinks. I mean,
that's what happens when you're your own boss. Who's going to tell you what to do? Nobody. I mean, you could fire yourself, and that means throw in the towel. But once you get a taste of this freedom with therapeutic happiness of animal, like I said, God forbid, you should love these animals. And if you don't really love these animals and you want to do this full time, I don't know how that's going to work. I hope you have a million other hustles going on, because you're going to want to hire a staff. You're not going to, if you don't love these animals, you're not going to want to work with these animals as much as people who love animals work. I put in countless hours. I don't ever clock in and out. I'm always on the clock. Like, you know how it is. There's always something that needs to be done. It's nonstop. It's 24/7. You know what I mean?
And you have to love every aspect of it. I mean, even down to the cleaning. I don't want anyone else to even clean, because there is something therapeutic about it. I mean, I love every aspect of keeping them. I think once I get away from, taking care of them all the way down to cleaning a cage, it's no longer going to be enjoyable for me. I wouldn't want to, hire people. Not that I could afford to hire people, but I definitely like being in control of all aspects of it. It feels very fulfilling and accomplishing. I'm
not at that stage where I could accept me hiring somebody. Like, you have to accept the fact if you hire someone, they're going to fuck up. It's going to happen. Yeah. But I can't accept the fact if I train you and if I tell you this is how I do things and it's not done. Yeah. Once I see that, I won't look at you the same. You know what I'm saying? And then you'll kind of see a different version of me. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want that, but that's just because I have my own OCD. Like, even my wife comes in and she'll be like, you good? And I'm like, do you need help? And I know I need help. Like, I know I need help. And I'm like, no. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. Only because I know my mental stress, like, not, I'm very high driven, as you can probably tell, but my mental state, when I have to stop what I'm doing, which I know what I have to do, but now I have to stop and teach someone what I need to do, which that means I'm going to be watching them while I'm watching. It's just fucked. It's just so fucked. So I don't like help right now. I'm just not ready for it, but I need it. It's so fucked up, because as much as I'm like, I don't need help, Kasey, I need help.
Trust me, I need more than help. But I also think that I know I speak for everyone, that we all go through a very trial and error period. It's constant. It's not even a period. It's ongoing. And so we're learning as we go, and to bring someone else in, it would be tough, because I don't need a second person to learn the stupid mistakes and lessons that I already did.
I mean,
many times.
lessons cost in some way or form. You know what I mean? Either time it costs or money or all the above. I just don't want to go. I'd rather let me fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Like, and but this is also, check it out, Kasey. As much as I know I need help, we all need something at some point, but I know I can keep going easily. And I know I could make it happen. Yeah, of course, I'm going to add more, but I feel like I could do more. But I know there's a threshold. Like, I'm not Mr. going to pump out 100 clutches of ball pythons. I want 10 clutches of chondros. I want, like, I'm being very realistic. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to breed as much as what I'm good at, and that's the ball pythons. Like, ball pythons is my foundation. You know, like, I will always at least have multiple ball python clutches. Everything else, I'm shooting for like one. I just want to dabble in it. Like, I just want to, you know, enjoy myself. So meaning that all extra side shit besides the ball python, I don't look at that in any income whatsoever.
Yeah.
If anything, any ball python money I make goes into that shit constantly. That's just how.
Oh no. Can you hear me?
If this is your guys' you guys are just coming to the episode, what is good? Hit that like button. Let's get the likes up for Kasey. She'll be right back. A little connection issue, but am I muted? MJ? I'm muted. Hold on. How am I muted? It doesn't say I'm muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't really know what happened.
Oh my.
Let me. Can you hear me now?
1 second. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. 1 sec. 1 sec. 1 sec. It was me. Now you can hear me, right?
All right, now I can hear you.
All right. All right. I admit it. It was me. I could have sworn it wasn't me.
I was like, oh no, what did I do?
No, it was totally me. I own it. I own it, guys. I own it. All right. Back to business. Okay. How do I sound? Sound good? Can you hear me?
You sound great, and I have my headphones on now, so
All
hopefully
right,
this.
perfect. You probably didn't even
helps
need them. It was me, but it's all right. We'll go from there. All right. So check it out. Curious. So the iguana was the very first thing you stumbled upon as a pet, of course, right? That was your experience with any reptile.
It was somebody's pet. They had it, illegally in a military dorm room. It got confiscated eventually, but yes, that was my first experience.
I don't want to get into how military guys are just like, what the fuck are they thinking? You know, because I've had quite a bit of military homies, and even ones that I met from out of different states, and fuck, dude, they're just sometimes it's not all there. I don't understand, but anyways, I mean, I would have been one of them. I'm glad I never joined the military. I was this close to joining the Air Force. Glad I didn't do it because I would have done something to get kicked out for sure. I already know it. So, anyways, you took over this iguana, and you know, at that point, you told yourself what? Like, I need more, or what was happening then? I'm curious.
Well, I was still in college, and so I couldn't really get like an iguana or anything on a larger scale. So I settled with a leopard gecko, which then turned into 2 leopard geckos, which then turned into a bearded dragon, which I consider these like the gateway reptiles for me. And then, more bearded dragons. I got a ball python. I realized that I wasn't really passionate about any of those, but it just satisfied my need for reptiles. And so the next things I got was a Salfin dragon and a Woma python, and here I am.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Is it me?
It's me. No, it's totally not you.
I'm glad it's not me.
This never, I mean, I don't want to say never happens, but it's been like fucking 2 years since I've had technical difficulties. I don't know why that's happening. I'm sorry. Keep going.
No, as long as it's not.
It's not you. It's me. And I see where it is. I don't know why that happened again. I have no clue, but continue, please.
No, the next things I got was a Salfin Dragon and a Woma Python. Realized that I was very passionate about those two species. I obviously still keep them. I went through a phase, like I think we all do, where I just got excited, way too excited about absolutely everything, overwhelmed myself, got all types of different random things, frilled dragons, boa constrictors, tokay geckos, like all helmeted geckos all over the place, just because I was excited and it was new. But slowly realized that if this was gonna be sustainable for me, I really needed to focus on the things that I was truly passionate about, which were Aspidites and Hydrosaurus. Now from there, I've added a few other things to my collection, but I have a lot going on outside of my life. I mean, I have a job. I have a 2-year-old. I'm actually 8 months pregnant right now, so I'm about to have my second child.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Fucking epic. I love it.
So what I'm trying to say is that I need to be very realistic with what I can manage. And so by focusing on a few species, I like to say I want to know a lot about a little instead of a little about a lot. It can be manageable for me to have this as, a so-called hobby and still live my life, have a job, have a family. There's a very fine line, and I've seen people cross that line way too many times, and what happens is it's not only me that would suffer, it's the animals that would suffer, their health, every aspect of my collection if I cross that line. And so I've chosen just those few specific species that I've been working with for quite some time now. And, I'm not really planning to add anything else at this point, just because I have a lot going on.
Now, you just dropped a lot on us right now.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm very happy because now I have a lot more to actually talk about, with what you have to come in your life, which is very exciting stuff. But before you knew, you were like, wow, you're finding these species. You can hear me, right? Okay, good.
Yes.
So you're finding these species you're really into. Like, I want to know how much research that was going behind every species before you bought it, or did you buy it then research? And you could be 110. You could be keeping a buck on this. You don't have to lie. So, curious on the research aspect of this.
So the leopard geckos, ball pythons, boa constrictors, helmeted geckos, like all of those things that I started out with, 0 research. Like I just got excited and bought them. The Salfin Dragons, I had to do research. It took me almost a year just to find one. I was actually in, again, just a weird story, in Petco and had very little interest in reptiles, but saw this book that had a Salfin Dragon on the front of it. And I was like, what in the world is that? And I went home. I realized that they're not common at all. It took me, like I said, almost a year to find one. But in that time, I did so much research, more about husbandry. Now, after I got the Salfins, then I started getting more into like background scientific research. The Woma Python's kind of the same thing. Like they're out there, but they're not that available. So in the time of me getting interested to actually finding my first Woma Python, I ended up doing a lot of research, again, more husbandry wise, but after the fact, I really got into a lot of the, scientific articles and more historical information on them. And I feel like because I did that, that really gave me the passion I needed to keep working with them. I'm also working with a lot of things that there's not a lot of information on. So they are a little bit mysterious, I guess, if you want to consider them. Which I think keeps my interest even more. I'm always learning. There's not a manual out there for a Woma Python or a Salfin Dragon. There's not a manual by any means. It's all about talking with people, reading articles, trial and error. So it's definitely kept me interested.
Well, Kasey, I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, here's the one thing I also love about what we do. Check. Okay, thank God. I'm just like, am I mute again? I might be fucking paranoid for the rest of the episode. I'm sorry. But
That's okay.
whatever. I'm sorry. And if you're out there complaining, go fuck yourself. One thing I love about this hobby is even if you feel like you know about all these species, you'll see something that you're like, holy shit, what is this? You know what I mean? And then with nowadays, you can even possibly get your hands on it, right? And I fucking love that. Like, that's one thing I love about this. With the Salfins, right? Like, I mean, what a beautiful fucking creature. Like, what a beautiful reptile. I'm got to know what were some of the trial and errors. Like, what were some of the things that you discovered in the first year or two of keeping them that you switched up? If there was anything, I'm curious.
Oh my gosh, we could talk for 2 hours about all the ways I messed up. If Alex is on there,
I got plenty of vodka left, and yeah, we're good. We're in a good place. Go ahead.
if Alex is listening, he's probably laughing in the background. But I definitely picked stupidly, but now I'm very happy with sticking with the Salfins. I picked one of the more difficult reptiles in general to care for, on top of having no information at all about them to reference. So in the first year, I did everything wrong. I didn't have any humidity. I live in Pennsylvania. It's pretty dry here. In the summers, it can be humid, but the temperature, we have seasons here. This isn't like a Florida or a California.
It's real deal over there. You have real deal seasons. Fuck yeah.
So, I mean, we have a lot of snow in the winter. It's hot in the summer. So certainly just the way I arranged my enclosures in the very beginning was off, which then creates issues. Salfin Dragons are known for bashing their faces into the enclosure if you have glass or walls. Now I keep everything closed off. I mean, there is no visibility at all on some of my enclosures. But in the beginning, I wanted to see them. I wanted them to be these display animals. They're beautiful. I couldn't stop looking at them, which was the number one mistake. Also, they're not an animal that you're going to cuddle with. It's not a pet by any means. It's not something that's going to like sit on your shoulder while I'm talking to you here. They like to be left alone. And so I slowly realized that I need to respect them and eventually they will respect me. But I just, wanted to hold them. I wanted to look at them, which just causes so much stress. Stress equals hitting their faces. I was taking some of them to the vet to get cream and antibiotics on their faces. Number one thing I tell everybody now, biggest lesson learned, is the chicken wire. A lot of people use chicken wire on their cages, whether it's on the top when you put your heat lamp on top or on the front. They do terribly with the chicken wire. And I learned that the hard way. I could go on and on. The other thing is that they need constant fresh water. So
Thank you for saying that. I do. I mean, so I don't want to say the monitor like standard of water changes is as bad as like the ball pythons, because ball pythons at minimum, a lot of those motherfuckers are once a week. And I'm like, what? That's fucked up. Like I pay attention. I know that's not enough, but my monitors, maybe because I don't have multiple, like there's this one good tub in there, but I have to change that probably twice a week. Like, I know this because I'll see, like, let's just say they have fresh water in the morning. They'll take a fat shit in it. Well, at some point, one of them are going to want to go in that water again. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. You got to, it's fucked up. It's like, why wouldn't you want to like, oh, you have to wait 24 hours until I give you fresh water again? Or even like, it's just, this is where it kind of like separates certain keepers. There's keepers that do shit done as it's happening.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All right. I'm going no mic. This is stupid. Okay, shit. You can hear me though, right?
I can hear you.
Okay. Back to normal. But anyways, the whole standard on water changes. Like I never stood for it. So, that I feel like that's one thing I'm glad you called out, it's the whole frequent of a water change that should be happening with any reptile. I feel like if it's dirty, fucking change it, period.
Well, and more specifically with sailfins, I'm not entirely familiar with different species of monitors, but sailfins swim, drink, and poop all in their water. And when I say water changes, I mean like 2 times a day sometimes. It's constant that they need fresh water. And I also have OCD, so I like to make sure it's clean for them. But that's a big undertaking to clean water. And we're not talking like a little Rubbermaid container of water. We're talking big totes of water. So trying to figure out the best way to handle the water situation, I'm still working on it. I'm going to be honest about that. In the beginning, you know, I was using just little Rubbermaid like containers, filling it up, dumping it out, refilling it. But then you have issues of, you know, water temperature. It gets so cold here in the winters that my water was so cold. So let me preface that by saying my reptiles are not in my house. They're in a barn that I've insulated and built a room within my barn. And
on your property.
So actually it's on my parents' property, because when my husband deployed, we had to move out of our house, and my parents said, absolutely not. They are not coming in the house, but we will let you use our barn. So there's no heated water. I was literally carrying just gallon jugs back and forth from the house to the barn with warm water, filling these up every day. Then I decided, like, this isn't going to work anymore. Let me try filtration systems, which they're pooping in the water. Their food gets in the water. They get clogged up immediately. So I'm back to refilling these huge Rubbermaid containers and refilling them. With that being said, we finally built a house. My husband's no longer in the military, and we put a pole barn on our property. We're running water to it. It's like a real deal room now. So I don't have to worry about the temperature of the water, carrying things in and out of the house. I'm hoping that we're moving into this I'm going to be able to move my reptiles into this new room within like a matter of weeks. So
how long, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. How long have your animals been in this barn for now?
Probably 5 years.
Okay, so they've been settled there for a while. So it's not like they've been there for 2 years or something that you have to move again. Like this, here's one thing that I stood my ground on, Kasey. It was like just about over a year ago, because I rent. Where we live, I rent. You know, we've been here for 6 years, and it's a really good situation. You know, we're like on the outskirts east of San Diego. I'm on an acre of property. I have like this studio that's about 20 feet away from the house where I keep all my animals, you know, and I was able to convince my wife to eventually have animals inside the house now. So we're good, right? But then about a year and a half ago, my landlord came and said how in the acre part, like, you know, behind everything, we have a bunch of like space. She wants to build another house. And it sucks because we wanted to buy this house, and she always knew we wanted to buy this house. But now she wants to do shit to it. And now she wants to add stuff to it. So it kind of made us think like, well, we should get the fuck out of here then. Like, we should move. And that's when we realized how shitty the market is. Like, it's California, San Diego, good luck. Like, everything is like where we want to live. I mean, it's getting a tiny bit better, but I was like, this is crazy. If we really wanted to do this a smart way, we would have to find somewhere else to rent until the market got better. And then we would have to go ahead and pull the trigger then if it goes that route. But I was like, or we could just fucking deal with what we have to deal with, stay here, because if it's one thing I want to avoid is taking the animals from one place to another. That could fuck everything up big time. Like,
absolutely, on so many levels.
Yes, that can literally, like, people have stories of females being moved from a room and they never bred again. Like, it just stopped. And like, dude, everything started where I'm at. Like, I'm going 5 years deep on this shit now, and everything has been breeding and growing up where it's at. So just the thought of me moving it, and then, okay, when we have to move it again, like, that scares the shit out of me. So luckily, you know, I kind of, like, my landlord knows what I do. Like, you know, she doesn't really know how deep it is, but I kind of broke it down to her, and she was like, you know, I was like, listen, do what you got to do to the fucking back part. I don't care, but I cannot be messed with. I'm going to be like, I all my money, everything I do is based off me being in this house right now. And she's like, yeah, you're good. Don't worry. And I'm like, all right, you know, do your thing, you know. And it sucks because we live in an older house, you know. God bless my wife. She has a great job. I'm doing pretty good now. We technically should be living in a better place, but I told my wife, can we please just stay here and just rug it out? I beg you, like, give me 5 more years. No, I'm just kidding.
I can appreciate that. I mean, the market here is crazy too. Luckily, we did find a house, but it has been just pure anxiety for the past 5 years of living with reptiles and thinking about, we were living in apartments while my husband was in the military. Like, well, what am I going to do with the reptiles? You're so lucky that you have a landlord that is willing to have the reptiles on the premises, but under most circumstances you can't have 30 plus reptiles, and maybe ball pythons and leopard geckos, but certainly not Salfin dragons. Their cages are enormous. So I'm definitely feeling relieved that I'm going to have a permanent home for them, but I'm back to feeling anxious because, just like you're saying, moving any reptile is stressful. I think I'm worried the most about my Salfins, though, because in this transition, I'm getting all new Salfin dragon cages, which I could be doing this could be the worst move I've ever made. But I built all these cages so many years ago out of wood, and they've rotted and they're moldy because I constantly have to mist the Salfins, and they're literally deteriorating. So I'm going to do this one last time of moving them into a different enclosure, which this could be bad. We'll see. And also moving them to a different room, basically. But I'm hoping that by me moving them into more upgraded enclosures, it will work out in the end, because I am just struggling so bad with things like humidity. My room, because it's in a barn, the temperature fluctuates depending on the day, the season. I mean, I have a little air conditioner in there, I have a heater in there, but the weather outside dictates what the temperatures are inside. Now, I try my best to regulate them. I use, sensors in the enclosures that hook up to my phone so I can see humidity and temperature, but it's been a struggle.
Have you seen those gigantic humidifiers? Like, they're in a barrel like this big.
No, I haven't.
So shout out to my buddy Christian from Morphin Endorphins in Canada. I went to go to his place, and I'm sure Canada. Okay, here's the thing: Southern Ontario or like Mid Ontario reminds me a lot of Pennsylvania. Like very green, like the countryside, very PA. Like it gave me those vibes. So I'm assuming that because I was just there in July, super humid, super PA. I'm talking about the same weather. So I'm assuming they have fucking humidity problems too. That's why you had that gigantic. I forget. It's a company in Florida. I'll get the information for you if you want to look.
Yeah.
But it's literally a barrel like this big, and it has like this. It's like literally like a gigantic humidifier, which humidifies. I mean, your barn. I don't know how big your barn is. How big is your barn?
Right now, my room's like 19 by 19, but the room we're building is about like 20 by 30.
Oh, that's big.
So it's going to be probably bigger than what I need for right now, but then I at least have room, for growth. The other thing is I keep Aspidites in the same room that I keep Hydrosaurus, which, is a whole other challenge in itself, because I do need the humidity for the Salfin dragons, but I don't want too much humidity for my pythons. So it's a struggle to keep certain species humid, hot, the other species cooler, less humid.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm listening. Go ahead. I'm just fixing things. I can hear you.
No, that's okay. But just trying to, basically, I can't just make one adjustment in my room. I have to make individual adjustments to individual enclosures based on what that specific reptile needs in terms of humidity, heat, so on and so forth, which isn't going to end no matter where I go. I feel like we all struggle with that when we have various different species in our one facility or one room.
Like, listen, I know where I live is very difficult. California sucks. The laws, all that shit, other than the food and the weed. I get it. We have the really good beaches, though, too. But I will say right now, you can't fuck with our weather. We have some of the best weather. You know? And dude, better than Florida, because we ain't got none of those fucking hurricanes wiping us out and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the one thing Florida does have better is the humidity, obviously, right? But it's overkill. It's like, as a human, it's almost impossible to live with. It sucks. it's hard. I've been there. I'm going there in 5 days. I'm looking forward to it, but not looking forward to just being in there in the sweating goddamn humidified weather. But anyways, I have a super chat question that relates to your water situation. If you don't mind, please share it.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dylan, D's Balls and Exotics. Have you considered using a bulkhead fitting on the bottom of the water totes that leads outside the enclosures, and you can connect a dump hose, open it, rinse with clean water hose?
Yes, and I actually, sorry.
You're good.
Have done something similar to that, where I put basically drainage underneath. I feel like this is similar to what they're suggesting, but drainage underneath the enclosure. And so
right,
one of the modifications that I've made over the past few years is that my enclosures are like 4 to 5 feet off the ground. And there's only like 2 of them that have this. It was more of an experiment. And the water is bowl or tub, if you want to call it, is actually built into the enclosure. And then there's a little valve where I can just drain it, rinse it out, disinfect it, refill it. But I've seen many people that have some sort of system that kind of takes the water outside and replenishes it, which would be great to accomplish at some point. But like I said, right now I'm stuck with these huge ancient wooden enclosures that I don't have much options other than filling up these Rubbermaid containers, dumping them out and refilling them. So I know there's other options out there. Sometimes your room doesn't allow for modifications.
It's crazy how much we rely on our rooms to get the job done though, huh?
Yeah, that's for sure.
It's fucking nuts. That's why like a lot of people who come into this and just even working with a ball, easy species like a ball python, if you're not dialed in your room and you don't have shit together, you'll still run into problems. You know what I'm saying? Like ball pythons are easy to keep alive, but if you don't have shit together and dialed in, you're going to have a hard time no matter what. Like you have to be a dialed in person. Like you have to.
Well, and you have to, this goes back to people work with reptiles because they really want to and because they are passionate about it. Because if you're not, this is overwhelming. You constantly have to be changing things and thinking about things and modifying things. If you don't, the health of your animals are going to suffer. And you'll find out real quick, I feel like, if you're not interested and passionate about what you're working with.
Kasey, here's the thing. The health is going to go down no matter what. Even if we're the best keeper, we're going to run into problems. So don't add more problems to the problems.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you could like, and here's things. People don't understand that no matter how good you are at things, you're going to run into shit because it's the name of the game. You know, like I thought I was out of the fucking clear because I got my first chondro clutch to eat this year. No, prolapse, motherfucker. Hello. And I had no idea about this prolapse shit. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And it was terrible to go through. Shout out to Bill Stiegel in the building. Thank you, Bill. Bill walked me through the steps. And, you know, it was just, you know, I was prepared for this snake to die. Like, and that's the one thing you need to be prepared for. When this shit does happen to you, you can't let it fucking own you. You can't let it eat at you. It is what it is. You just got to keep it moving. That's it. Because I can tell you what, I used to take so much shit personal in the beginning. Like when things
I did too.
Oh, I used to get so mad. And I used to like be hard on myself. Like even my wife would be like, yo, like either you need to learn how to take this shit or don't do it. And when she told me that, it was kind of like a light bulb, like, yo, like you better fucking suck this shit up because it's not going to stop. Like it's breeding, like it's going to keep happening. And, you know, I was having escapes and shit like that, like all these things happening to me. And I was like, what the fuck, you know, and always at the worst time, you know what I mean?
Oh, and
Mites,
it's like more than one thing. Yeah, it would be like one bad thing happens and then 3 more bad things happen in the next 3 days. But I feel like the one thing that I've learned is to be, you know, there's things that happen in my room that only I know about, but there's also things that happen like right before you're going to sell something. Maybe something happens to a snake, or for example, I had mites. Like, I'm not ashamed to say that. Somehow I got mites.
Fucking terrible.
But we are, for whatever reason, I do feel like these things are taboo and they should be talked about. We should be transparent about them because it's the reality of keeping multiple animals. I had mites one time. No idea how I got them. I beat myself up over it. But at the end of the day, there was nothing, you know, I could have done better to prevent it. And now I can move on past it. But I had like 5 snakes that were about to be shipped out. And I was so scared to tell these buyers that, you know, my snake has mites. I'm going to do everything I can. You know, how do you want to move forward? And every single one of them was understanding. So, you know, sometimes we get worked up in our heads about like, I did everything wrong. How did this happen? Everyone is going to think I'm a bad keeper. Like, no, we just need to be open. You can get advice too if you're open. You know, people can help you.
Here's the thing, like how many people are really fucking reprimanded and shitted on for a once or twice type of thing? Nobody. It happens to everybody. Every fucking buddy, any well-established breeder who sells animals, 100% has dealt with mites, has, you know, maybe sold the snake that it didn't come in the way it should have. Something. It happens. Yep. The problem is the repeat offenders, the ones who are just fucking like notorious for it. And that's, you know, those are the ones that we're obviously now we have enough people to speak up nowadays. A lot of people don't fucking deal with that shit. So they'll speak up. And I feel like those ones are coming to an end, thank God. Yeah, there's still going to be piece of shit people's lingering, but the ones who are habitually like nonstop doing terrible customer service, it's gonna come to an end at some point. Because
I think there's also signs though that we need to be more aware of when we're working with people, because I can tell you there have been times where I've been like, this doesn't feel right. This person isn't giving me the attention that I want when I'm asking them questions. They're not responding with the answers. And sometimes we get so excited that we look past it and we just want that reptile. But you do have to be selective, because you have to think about the rest of the stuff in your room that you could be putting at risk.
Kasey, let me ask you this, okay? And you know, it is, you know, I don't know how to say this, not sexist, but females are a lot, you know, tend to be more sensitive than guys overall, right? So what I'm saying is, for any female out there who deals with a situation where they get a snake with mites or they get a snake that dies, at what point do you like bring it up? At what point do you not bring it up? Like, I mean, where do you feel like the line is where you should fucking step up and say something and like maybe put it on a group page or some shit? Or do you feel like there's other steps you could take before you take it that far? Like, I want to hear it from you.
Honestly, this is not the answer that I should be saying, but I really don't address it. Now, I've never had like a terrible situation where I received a reptile that was, it was, you know, near its death or something like that. But I have had reptiles that came in that certainly weren't well fed or, you know, other issues. At some point, I do feel like I may have, if I look back, I missed some signs. And so I take a little bit of responsibility for those certain situations. I don't know how to answer that. I'm definitely a non-confrontational person, so I have a hard time like reaching out to someone and saying, this is not what I wanted. I guess it depends on the severity of what you received or what the situation was.
I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like you have to go through it too. Just how like an animal is going to like die on you or something bad happen. Like you're going to deal with a bad customer. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, a bad seller. But like, I don't think it should happen all the time. Don't get me wrong. You know, I feel like there's a time and a place for everything, but there are certain things that I mean, here's the thing. I mean, it depends on how you feel about this, but at the end of the day, you back somebody up or you keep somebody in business by giving them money. Okay. You vote with that dollar. So with that being said, don't buy anything from that person ever again. It's that simple.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, that one loss is not going to determine your future in this industry. God damn, you know how many fucking snakes have I lost? Like how many times over 2 years, no mites. Guess how long it's been since I bought an import?
A while.
2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. and when I say by that, buying import from the same importer I was buying from. I was getting shit from the same guy all the time, and mites kept fucking popping up no matter what. I would even get the animal in, looks fine, quarantine, 3 months later, boom, mites. Like, what the fuck happened? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is why I shout to Warren Booth. Warren Booth believes in like 13-month fucking quarantines. He goes over a year, and I understand that why. I understand now why. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, once I got over that shit, and once I started realizing, hey, dummy, you keep adding more shit to your fucking, like, to healthy stuff. So it's going to keep happening. So I had to stop. And once I stopped, everything started like what it should have been, you know, and I started figuring things out. And, you know, and I'm not going to lie, like my quarantine room was in the washroom, which is still technically connected to my main room. So it's not really a quarantine room. Let's not beat around the bush. And a lot of you people out there don't got a real quarantine room either. So shut the fuck up. Let's really be honest. Nobody has a real, I mean, I'm not saying nobody. There are people who have proper quarantine rooms, but I don't know what the percentage is, but don't act like motherfuckers got real quarantine rooms out there, because they don't.
Not
so
me.
what I'm trying to say is, because of that, that's what I was dealing with. I had to deal with mites, all this shit, because I kept working with an importer who just didn't give a fuck. He would get it in and send it out. He was
and I feel like the imports is maybe an example of a time when I wouldn't say anything, because working with Salfins, a lot of them are imports.
Yeah.
You're not going to talk to someone about who the parents of the baby you're purchasing are, where it came from. Like, they're coming in. You have no idea what you're getting half the time. I would say 90% of the time I've purchased something as, let's say, a Celebensis, it ends up being something else. Or it dies. That's just the reality of working with imports. Now, on the other side of that, if I had talked to, let's say, a black-headed python breeder for a month, you know, they sent me pictures, they sent me all of this background information, and then they sent me a snake that was malnourished, had mites. That's a different story. I'm going to say something then. But I guess maybe I'm just going off my experience with some of these species that are not that common, and they do come in as imports, and unfortunately, they're not always in the best shape, and I can't go back and complain. There's nobody to complain to. It's the reality of the game.
I didn't even realize how good I had it with this, you know, this old import I used to work with. I'm not gonna lie, he took care of me. I just had to deal with a lot of shit, but I understood that. Like, I understand, like, okay, be ready. You know, it's gonna have something wrong with it probably, or maybe it might come in mint. But I just knew, like, it was what it was. And a lot of times too, right? Like mites, I knew I'd take care of mites. That's I could take care of that. Like me bitching to the seller, I mean, that's whatever. You got to take care of it, right? But you get an animal that's missing an eyeball, or it's fucking, you know, its jaws to the right, or it's like on its deathbed. Then I'm like, yo, bro, this is not cool. You know, like, and he, like, I don't want to say his name, but that person always took care of it. Like every time I was like, why the fuck did you send me this? It was always oh, I'm so sorry, like a fucking story, but he always took care of it. Now, a good buddy of mine passed away about 2 years ago, going on 3. Forrest Fanning, rest in peace, my buddy. I love him. Miss you, buddy. But my buddy Forrest passed away, and my buddy Forrest used to work with this guy a lot too. Heavy, right? Like he's probably the biggest reason why I worked with this guy, because I saw how much money he was giving into him, right? Forrest passes away, and then I find out through another buddy of mine who works with Forrest that like Forrest was owed like a $12K fucking shipment, right? Like a whole like import shipment that he had money with this guy, and it never came to, even though he passed away, never got settled. And I was like, well, fucking say something. And they didn't want to say nothing. And I'm like, what do you mean? Fucking say something. That. And all because of they don't want to be on the bad end of things if that one thing comes in. You just never know if that, and that's like, I was like, honestly, it's not, to me, fuck it. It's not worth me getting that animal if I'm going to be fucking taken advantage of like that. So once I heard that, I mean, I was like upset that they didn't want to say anything, but what can I do? They don't want to say nothing. They don't want to say nothing, you know, but I held on to it and eventually took my frustrations out on that with him at some point over the phone. And that's what ended the whole fucking, and I'm glad it did. I'm so glad it did, because like I said, I've been miteless. I've been fucking, you know, my freezer has more space. Thank God. You know, it's just, but I understand, Kasey, why people don't say shit, because they don't want to be left out. They don't want to be fucking like, well, you fucked yourself because, yeah, I fucked you over, but you bitched about it. So now I'm going to give the person you don't like the animal.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh my God, the politics in this shit it's pretty hairy. I'm not going to lie.
It is, but I'd also say that on the flip side of working with maybe a bad seller is that it does make you become a better seller.
Aware.
Yourself.
Yeah. Right.
And things that really piss you off that sellers do to you, you try to now avoid doing to potential customers. So for me, I don't like when people don't give me pictures, videos, multiple, not just one. I don't like when people are short with me. I don't like short responses. So I want to have a conversation with people that are buying from me. I'm also working with very unique animals. And so I'm not selling to just anybody. If you want to buy a Salfin dragon from me, like we're going to talk for a while, and I'm going to make sure that this isn't an animal you're going to get into your reptile room and you're going to kill it because you just thought it was cool looking and wanted to add it to your collection.
All right, Kasey, let's be realistic with ourselves. What are the chances of a random person, regardless of the hours you put in talking to them, what are the chances of that person do what they're supposed to do and keep that animal alive? From a random, let's just say a random person, somebody you have no idea, you ran into them at a fucking reptile show, or I've been a big fan of your page for a while, you know? Like, here's the thing. It's so difficult because nobody will realize or understand how much you really love these animals, especially once you start producing them and they're coming from your hard work. But then again, here you are relying on all this hard work on somebody who could easily neglect the living shit out of it. And I want to avoid that at all costs. And it's even hard for me to do. There's a certain point with ball pythons, I can't keep track of who buys. Dude, take it. If you want my ball pythons, take it. And that's sad because I hear stories sometimes of people fucking just cooking their animals. And you can hear me, right?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, good. But you hear so many stories of just like an easy animal to keep that, like, how'd you do that? Like, how the fuck you kill that animal? Like, how? So with a Salfin dragon, here, you want to know how I relate this to? And even though I feel like it's, you know, in its own entity, but the green tree pythons, like I finally got I had 3 green tree pythons that were born this year. One of them just died yesterday. God bless. The other one was a prolapse. Great. And then I have one that's in there. That's in the game for now. I've been breeding green tree pythons for 3 years, and that's my best results in the 3 years I've been doing it. Okay, I probably killed 46 eggs. You know what I mean? Like I'm talking about, and let's talk about like on the good average, 20 of those were fully developed chondros. They were just dead. I don't know why. No fucking clue. So here I am 3 years, going 4 years deep, and I finally have a chondro that's alive. You know, you think, you think I'm going to sell this fucking thing? No, fuck no. But let's say I had like 10 or 12. You know how hard it's still going to be for me, Kasey, to just let these fucking things go to some schmo on fucking Morph Market? Like, I can't swallow that pill. Like, that's why I have a Patreon page. I'm hoping I could really start selling the passionate stuff to people I'm more tapped in with. Like, I know how to find this animal. You know what I mean? Like that's not easy to do, but that's my game plan with the chondros, the emeralds, all the stuff that's not ball pythons. Like I have a system I hope I stick to where I could keep track where all these fucking animals go.
Yeah.
So I know where you're at with that. I just want you to be realistic with yourself. Like the most random person that inquires and buys an animal from you, you know, you have to accept that risk that there's a high percentage that animal's not going to make it. You know what I mean? And it sucks, but.
Well, I'm in a position and the way I run if you even want to call it a business, is that I don't need to make money. I don't need to sell anything.
That's
like
awesome.
I really don't need to. And so I can be very selective with who I sell anything to. And I will be. I don't think I've really ever just sold something to a person that messages me and says, "Hey, I'm interested. How do you want the money?" Do you know what I mean? I'm like, whoa. We're right. Going to talk for a minute first. And I don't have to sell to people that I'm uncomfortable with. I feel bad for anyone that might be in that situation where they need to not get rid of, but sell the animals for profit in order to keep feeding their animals. I don't ever want someone to be in that position, but I take selling specifically the Salfin Dragons very seriously, just because there is so much work that goes into breeding them, and they're not that common that it is almost a list of people that I sell to that I know are working with Salfins that want to keep them because they want to be part of the process of us getting more Salfin Dragons in this country.
Now, before we get into, because I still have more stuff I want to ask you about the Salfins, okay? And it's basically the enclosure, the current enclosure game plan that you have going on, because I know you said that as of right now they can't see nothing, right? It's completely boxed in, or how's it set up?
So there's no chicken wire anymore. With that being said, there are plexiglass strips on the front of all of my enclosures, but they are taped up with paper. And so there is literally no way for them to see out. Now, if I need to look at them and I don't want to open the entire door, I can just lift that paper up. But I just go with no visibility at all. I've tried a little visibility, in which case then they might be able to see another sailfin in another enclosure, and that causes chaos. And so the way I've been handling it is I just cover everything up for the most part, and it's served me well for a few years now.
Now, these have localities, correct? Or how do these come? I mean, because I've seen different colors, like on your page, and like some of them look bigger than the others. So, I mean, how are these in like, species and whatnot? I'm curious.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting couple years, because I believe the last time there was an update to the taxonomy of the genus Hydrosaurus was in 1911. So it's been a while. And at that time, we only had 3 species of Salfin dragons, which was the Pustulatus, the Ambonensis, and the Weberi. Then in 2020, there was a paper or a study put out that increased the number of species from 3 to 5. So basically, what we had previously considered to be Ambonensis is now broken out into 2 species from Sulawesi, which are the Microlophus and the Celebensis, which are the 2 that I would like to work with the most. So within those 5 species, they're not subspecies. Maybe one day they will be, but Alex and I, when we wrote this paper for Reptiles magazine, basically referred to them as phenotypic variations between different regions, based on different regions within the species, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, my biggest thing is I want to figure out, are there certain species that are more docile than the other from what you can tell? Are they all basically the same? How's that? Like, how are you figuring that out?
So I have not worked with Ambonensis or pure Weberi before. So I don't want to speak to either of those, but the Celebensis, in my opinion, which is one of the largest, is definitely more docile. With that being said, though, my experience is that it really just depends on the individual sailfin. Like, I don't even want to characterize one whole species as being more docile than the others. Like, I've had some that are just completely insane, and others that don't really care if I go in and, rub their head or, put my hand really close to them. So I do think it, in my personal opinion and experience, depends on the specific individual that you're working with.
So when it comes to you seeing that one sailfin that's pretty like open to you being around it and it's chill, how much are you putting like training techniques on that animal? Like, are you working with that animal more? Do you like let it out? Like, are you doing anything to like kind of like test the waters more with a more docile sailfin?
So the only thing that I do, and this all stems from me respecting them. Like, I literally 100%. Just respect them. I do not want to stress them out. If they want to allow me to get close to them, I do. But the way I do it is by feeding them with tongs from when they're little. That's one way that I kind of get them used to me. And literally just going in daily and cleaning their water, putting their food bowls in. For the first, whether it's an adult that I get or a baby, you put your hands in, they might even just be trying to get out of the enclosure. Like, it's all, it's just chaos. With that being said, the more you do that, the more comfortable they are. Now, some of my adults, they don't even care if I bump into them when I put a food bowl in. But I don't really take them out. Like, even if they were to let me, I feel like it does stress them out. Like, I do take pictures. Obviously, I have pictures on my social media. And that's usually when I'm cleaning and things like that. If I get them out, or if I need to look at them for a reason, I'll take them outside and take a picture. But really the only interaction I have with them is cleaning, changing their water, and their food. And so that's why this is also a unique species, is that if you're looking for something that you're going to like hang out with on the couch and watch TV with, this is not going to be a rewarding species to work with. For me, what's rewarding is literally just being able to put my hands in sometimes. I feel like I'm making them sound like a difficult or not a great species to work with, but they really are. Like, for example, my biggest guy, Damien, who I no longer have, he actually passed away. When I first got him, he was an adult and he was insane. Like I was actually scared of him. He was so aggressive. I've never had a Salfin like this before, but all I did was I kept just, feeding him, respecting his distance, or distancing myself, changing his water. And within a year and a half, I could put my hand in the enclosure and he would crawl on my arm and I could just take him out of the enclosure. Like that moment right there, that's why I like working with Salfins. I don't need something to walk around in my room with on my shoulder. Like it's just, that was an accomplishment for me.
I feel like if you can't learn to respect something, you should not have it. Get rid of it, because something bad's going to happen. And let me elaborate on that a little bit. I had a speckled rattlesnake as my first pet, like meaning like as I was doing my ball python thing, a good buddy of mine had fucking a situation he was in, and he's like, "Hey, I have this rat." You there? Oh, cool.
Oh yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
My buddy's like, "Hey man, listen, I'm going through this divorce. My wife's threatened me to take me to court, and I have a baby rattlesnake in a Coca-Cola bottle." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Dude, what are you?" He's like, "Yeah, man, I can't have it. It's dying." I'm like, what do I do? I was like, "Okay, whatever. Bring it to my house." Of course, I didn't tell my wife nothing. So I'm just like, "Okay, let me get it," and I put it away. And long story short, it takes me 30 days to finally get it to eat. It eats, and it becomes one of the most docile, beautiful thing ever. So what do you think I'm doing? I'm fucking holding it, playing with it. And my wife walks in. First time she walks in, she sees me holding it. And she's like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, are you doing this?" And I'm like, no. I was like, I know it's nice. She's like, "You can never do this again. Promise me." I'm like, "I promise I'll never do it again." What do you think happened? She walked in and I was doing it again. Okay. For whatever reason, and listen, I had my buddy Forrest I just talked about. I would send him videos. I wouldn't put it on my stories. I didn't give a fuck about the public knowing, but I did want my friends know to see how docile this rattlesnake was, because I couldn't believe it. And he was like, "Hey, dude, he's like, stop. Just don't. Like, don't do that. That's a bad idea. Don't be one of those venomous handlers. Trust me, you don't want to do that." And I'm like, but I love, like, I was like, okay, I get it. I'm not going to send you videos no more, but I'm still going to do it. I fucking loved it. I don't know why I couldn't keep my hands off of it. But then I brought a guest on, and, long story short, he got killed, or not killed. He did not get killed. I'm sorry. He got bit by something where he lost his finger. And I was like, "Yo, you need to fucking put the connect, like, hello, dude, like, you're going to get bit. Like, you are going to get bit. You don't respect this animal." And dude, there was even times where, like, I put her down and she did like the head turn, and I'm like, whoa, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm just asking for it. So thankfully that fucking light bulb hit my head, and I was like, you need to fucking let this thing go. Like, after 2 years of my wife begging me, she's like, I finally was like, I let it go, because I knew it just was no good for me. Now let's speed things up to the 2 bell phase monitors that I have right now. Okay. I have these bell phase monitors that are fucking pretty big. They're going on 2 years now. Mac Dre's a big motherfucker. He's becoming more open to me. You know what I mean? Like, I see that he tolerates me and stuff like that, but I don't go pick him up and put him on my shoulder. I'm not fucking scratching him on the head. Fuck all that shit. First off, you don't know what I've been through with a monitor bite, and I'll tell you off the podcast, but I don't need, like, I understand now. Like, I get the appreciation of, you have something amazing. You don't need to be that guy to go fucking clip its nails so it could be on your shoulder and it could be this YouTube star. Like, this is not what these animals are for. These animals are not meant to make you look cooler. Like, that's the fucking problem. And I knew that right away. To this day, I don't push it. I don't push the envelopes with those monitors at all. Even though I know they're very sweet and cute and come out, I just don't do it. I'm good. I'd rather take my precaution. I have this thing called the Pizza Hut training, which is just like this big long cork board, and they go on. I don't fucking use my hands. Fuck that shit. I don't believe in cutting their nails because they're arboreal. They climb, so they get to keep their nails. It's not about me holding them. So they fucking love the Pizza Hut training. They go on that fucking board, put them on there, and I put them away, and it's a done deal. But that's how I keep my respect for an animal. I will never push the envelope like that. It's dumb. It's stupid. It makes no sense. I don't know why. And this hobby's full of idiots like that, unfortunately. That's what I can't stand.
I'm so glad you said that. And I to go back to what you said, it's not about looking cool. Like, we don't have to look cool. We're not trying to get the most likes from a picture after you just stress the animal out trying to get it out of the enclosure. It's just about appreciating them. And sometimes that just means viewing them and taking care of them.
I mean, if we think deeper, right? Like, the likes is one thing, but there's motherfuckers that are making paychecks off this. Like, there's people who make stupid money off their YouTubes just by exploiting these animals. And as it's getting harder to keep up with the YouTube world, meaning YouTube, I'm sure they don't want to pay these animal people. They want to make it more difficult, but they can't not pay views. If people watch your shit, they have to pay out. So what do animal people creators have to do? Some crazy, stupid fucking shit for people to go and click. And like, like I said, there's like, I mean, I don't want to, it's crazy because I go to Animal Con next week with all these animal creators. There's probably like one or two actual animal creators I really respect.
Yeah.
That's it. The rest, I don't know what I'm going to do. What the fuck? I'm going to keep it transparent. What I do is not to fucking put myself on a pedestal and make myself look cool. I don't give a fuck. I just want my pedestal is walking in my room and seeing everything. That's I get my own little high off fucking what anyone else sees. No offense, but fuck everyone else. I'm doing my own thing with these animals and I'm having the time of my life. I'm telling you right now, I don't need the whole creator side of things. I don't. You want to know why I want to keep this podcasting going, Kasey?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? You want to know why I want to keep this going more than anything, and I'm so passionate about it? Because I don't need to worry about my income with the snakes. It makes a big difference. I don't need to worry about my ball pythons. Even though my ball pythons make me good money, I'm not gonna lie. Ball pythons was the reason why I said fuck my 9 to 5 and I can invest into this. But now, through time, now my podcast is picking up. It's not anywhere near my ball pythons. I'm gonna be wrong. My ball pythons are killing it. But it's to the point where, God forbid, something happens with the ball pythons, I could still keep a living going. You know what I'm saying? And that's all I want. Like, we can't rely on these animals for money, dude. You don't know what's going to happen. Like, you don't.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're saying all this. I mean, my personal stance, like on the social media aspect of things and the likes and the, people just liking you on social media is I personally don't even have a social media for myself. I have Facebook page because you can't have a business page without a Facebook page. But if there was, if I didn't have the reptiles, then I wouldn't even have social media. And the reason I have reptiles on social media is because I like to see what other people are doing. But if you use it for like putting yourself out there or trying to get more likes or trying to make money, like I have a serious problem with that, because then it's not about the reptiles anymore. And the one thing I do like about this community is that I would say the majority of people that I've met, they feel the same way. Like, they're on there for the reptiles. It's not their personal life. It's not them trying to make money. It's not them trying to get 10 million followers. It's just like, this is what I'm working with. Hey, maybe I had a clutch of eggs. I'm really excited. I want to share it. Or I need advice and I need to reach out to somebody. I mean, I feel like that's probably, if we were talking with someone right now pre-social media, I'm sure it was very difficult to communicate with anyone or get advice on anyone with anything. We're so lucky that we have this at the touch of our fingertips. Like, if we have a question, we can reach out to somebody. But there is a whole other side of social media that just gets me worked up.
Yeah, but that's, it's so easy to get caught into that, Kasey. Like, God, I'm kind of glad you are somebody hard to get a hold of, because that reminds me that you're not glued to your phone and you're not fucking just, your life isn't social media. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, like, for me, My life is social media because this is what I do. I have to fucking put this shit out there. And on top of everything else, as much as I'm growing a community, like my Patreon members, like I talk to them a lot. Okay. But there's also people I cannot sleep on who inquire me about podcast shit, animal stuff, all on Instagram too. You know what I'm saying? Like it could be so draining. It could be so fucking just like, God damn. So, I mean, I really treat nowadays, I mean, I have so many things that I work on that's outside the reptile stuff. And that's like my self-care. You know what I mean? Like I do affirmations. I just do things that make me feel better about what I'm doing. So I don't ever have to look at this shit as a job. I want to keep my passion for what I do. You know what I'm saying? But when you do the same thing over and over and over and over again, and you don't do anything to your mental health to switch things up, you become complacent. Like you become just a stagnant person. And I don't want to become a stagnant person. You know what I mean? But nobody should ever become a stagnant breeder, stagnant anything. It's just a lot more than what we're doing. It's a lot more than just breeding animals. You know, I try to look at this shit, Kasey, where I hope I still.
Can you hear me?
Am I out? Am I out?
I can hear you now.
Chat, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Am I muted?
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now? Am I good?
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
Are you sure?
Positive. For a
I
minute.
don't know why the fuck it's doing this shit. I was going on a good rant too. Where was I going with that? What were we just talking about?
We were just talking about social media and not getting stagnant with what you're working on and
okay, yeah, it's just being okay. I mean, at the end of the day, like Kasey, you know for a fact that you don't need to do what you do to make some sort of financial, and like you don't need to do this for the financial state of things, right? So because of that, you're not glued to your fucking phone. You're not glued to people because you need them. There's other people where it's the other way around, where they need this attention. They need like to be that Mr. Likable person. You know what I mean? Because that's what they rely on that, you know? So it all depends on what cloth you're made from when it comes to being in this game, you know? And that's why, I don't know. I feel like you should tread carefully.
Absolutely. But I also feel like for me, it's not being sucked into the whole, you know, popularity contest, social media contest has been to my advantage because I don't waste time with it. Now, I'm not saying it's always wasteful if you're on social media, but I have enough going on in my life that I focus on the reptiles. Do I have a problem? Okay, I'm going to use, you know, whatever platform to figure it out, or I'm going to meet people, or I'm going to discuss something, and then I'm going to move on. I'm not going to spend my whole day glued to my phone. I don't have time for it.
I mean, that's just, okay, being glued to your phone turns into a problem you don't need.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, we all, being humans, we're all facing problems, no matter what. So wouldn't you rather create your own problem versus something else creating a problem for you?
Yeah, exactly.
And what I mean by that is like push yourself, do things that make yourself uncomfortable. You know, I do jiu-jitsu and shit like that. I should still do more, but there's something that you should do to tire your ass out to where you don't have time for it. Like you're just like, okay, weirdo fucking going off on Instagram where I don't know what you're talking about, but I don't have time for this. You know what I mean? Like I legit talking to people I looked up to so much, and I would like bring up a topic or bring something up, and they just like, I don't have time for that. And I never really understood that until now, because at the end of the day, it's like, bro, like don't fucking bring up something so irrelevant just to talk. You know what I mean? And this goes back to why I love this industry, Kasey. When I was in the music industry, it was hard for me to talk to people. Unless you're my boy, unless you're part of my crew, it was hard for me to be open and say, hey, what music you got? Blah, blah, blah. I was very snobbish with shit like that. And what's crazy, I was around people who would have done good for me if I would have known better, but I was just like, fuck everyone. But now in this, I love talking to people like at the reptile shows, dude. Like I'll get carried away in a fucking 2-hour conversation with somebody. And I will be like, just so jazzed about what we're talking about. And I never felt like that with the music. I don't know why, but I never had a connection like that with people with the music. And I don't know, it's because I already know with the reptiles, we're better together than against, because information that's passed helps us all grow. Like whatever it is that you tell me that can help my animals, well, that's progression. That's what we all need. And I feel like that's the biggest thing I didn't know this podcast was going to do for people was help them progress. And here we are. Fuck.
Oh, absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, in my day job, I literally have to network, and I'm terrible at it. I don't know what to say half the time, but I could talk to you for 4 hours about reptiles. I could talk to you for 8 hours about reptiles. So, I mean, it says that you're doing the right thing, and you obviously are very good at talking to people. And I do think that these podcasts make a huge difference. There's no commercials, there's no editing. I mean, you're hearing
raw. Yeah. Look,
absolutely.
Technical difficulties, everything. It's not, there's no hiding anything. It's all good. We're still killing it though. Amazing podcast, just so you know. All right. So before we get into the blackheads, which is a huge part of this interview here, I'm curious, how many clutches have you had with these Salfins? Have you produced them yet or not yet?
I have. It's been a few years. So I think I produced 3 clutches of Salfin Dragons.
How many eggs? How many eggs per clutch?
So the first clutch that I got babies from, it was 4 eggs. The second one I think was 4 or 5, and the third one was only 2.
Okay.
Viable eggs, like that actually had babies. The reason I haven't produced in a few years is because I was creating like hybrids and tribrids, which are obviously a cross between multiple species. I don't think there's anything wrong with creating hybrids or tribrids, but my goal moving forward and some of the Salfin Dragon community that I'm talking with and working with, I feel like our goal is to create more pure lines in the United States. So rather than, a cross between a Microlophus and a Postulatus, like I'd like to see a Microlophus and a Microlophus, and even further, I'd like to see the same phenotype together. Now that's not that easy because some of the species, like the Sulawesi species, for example, Celebensis and Microlophus, they're hard to get a hold of, and it's even harder to get the same phenotype. So like right now I have some Celebensis, I'm hoping to breed in the future, but I'll have all males, and I have, a Microlophus female, which I don't even know if she is Microlophus. I think she's a cross between a Microlophus and something else. And so rather than just create more confusion and more of these like hybrids, I'm waiting until I can get my hands on some things that will create more, I guess, if you want to call them pure pairs, and that we can keep that going here in the United States.
So if we could kind of go back to like the breeding program you had for these, I mean, do you group them? Like, are they kept like, one male to so many females, or like how are these being kept? So
I want to put a disclaimer out that I'm talking all from my personal experience, and there's probably someone on here that's like, oh, that's not how I do it. But like, I keep all of my Salfins individually in different individual enclosures, with the exception of one pair that I have in a enclosure together right now. And I would put them together temporarily to breed and then separate them again. And that worked for me. Now, there are plenty of people that keep groups, like larger groups together. I know the guys at GX3 have a pretty large group of Salfins, of Postulatus, that are together. I know some people that just keep pairs together. My experience has been that it works for me if I have everything in separate enclosures and then I put them together. And I also keep everything in separate enclosures because there are times where they don't get along. Like all of a sudden,
we all got moods.
I had a pair previously that was together for a very short amount of time and they were fine with each other. And then all of a sudden, the male was getting so stressed out by the female. And then what do? You're talking like a 5 foot by 5 foot by 6 foot enclosure. You don't just have that in your back pocket. So I start out with one enclosure for every Salfin Dragon that I have, specifically for the purpose of also if you have to separate them.
Now, I mean, I don't know, like one thing I'm starting to realize, because I'm raising up my pair together, right? But I'm also prepared to have that separation enclosure for my male once it's time. I already know what's happening, but feeding is a fucking frenzy. Let me just say that, right? Like they they go ape shit, you know. But what right now, it's like it used to be my male punking my female, but now my female is literally like a fucking bitch. So I have to be very careful on how I feed them. As of right now, do you have to be careful with the same way when it comes to feeding them when they're paired up, or what's their demeanor like?
In my personal experience, I've seen that the females are the much more dominant when I have them together. They will push the males out of the way for the food. Again, this is just my personal experience. They are the problem causers, and they do fight like for their food. And you will notice, so like the pair that I have now, they're okay together. But when I put that food bowl in, she is first, he is second, every time. Now, the pair that I had previously, the male wouldn't even get to eat. Like, she would guard this bowl, and that's when I knew they couldn't be together, and he was just becoming a little bit malnourished and stressed out. She did not let him eat. Now, this female currently at least lets the male eat, but she is first to the food bowl every single time.
Wow. And so, I mean, since we're on the topic of feeding, what's the diet like for these? Like, what are you feeding them?
So I feed them like a salad, multiple, like every other day I offer them a salad, and it's usually a variety of leafy greens. So dandelion, sometimes I do kale and collard greens. Those are not my favorite. I'm just trying to think of what else I use. A variety of different greens. I do a lot of like carrots. I do butternut squash. I do sweet potatoes. I do give them fruit. They like fruit. I know everyone says like, you should not make that the main thing in your salad for your lizards, but I give them bananas, strawberries, blueberries, mangoes, zucchini, broccoli. I mean, they really can eat everything. I also give them eggs and turkey every once in a while. And
are they being fed every day or no?
I feed them like every other day.
Okay.
But I always have some sort of feeder insect in their enclosure, whether it's mainly they all like dubia roaches. So they have access to something at all times, but I'm not giving them a salad like every morning. I'm giving them a salad every other day. And then I'll give them like a heartier meal, like an eggs, butternut squash, carrots, and turkey, maybe like once a week.
Here's the going back to, you better be loving what you do if you're doing it. Because one of my biggest flexes for the year, Kasey, is I produce grasshoppers. I'm producing grasshoppers. Was not easy for me to learn, but I did it right. But what was I going to go with that? Hold on. What did I just say before I just said grasshoppers? My God, my mind just fucking flipped. What did I just say?
I don't even know.
What were we just talking about before the grasshoppers? Oh my God. I do
about
this
the salads?
Oh, thank you. Got it. All right. So I just had, my grasshopper mentor, shout out to the homie Kai Jr., Grasshopper King. Had him on the episode like, I don't know, about a month ago. And I'm like, dude, can't wait to tell him that I'm breeding grasshoppers. I'm doing everything right. And like, he came on and he like has a whole new program now. And I'm like, what? And, you know, because I told him, I was like, yeah, you know, I'm just been feeding my grasshoppers organic romaine. And he's like, well, my customers aren't happy with the grasshoppers only eating romaine. So now he feeds them like butternut squash, carrots, all sorts of shit. And guess what? They fucking love it. So now I'm chopping up butternut squash, like adding more shit to my guy. You know, the romaine lettuce is easy. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? Like throw it in there. But this shit, I'm like, now I'm breaking shit up. Oh man. But dude, they love it. And now I'm thinking, now great. Now my monitors and my green tree monitors that eat these grasshoppers are eating like butternut squash now. Now they're eating like really prime stuff. So there's just so much better stuff we can do that we'll never stop figuring it out. Like it's going to be always nonstop figuring shit out. That's why I love it.
Well, and the one cool thing about sail fins, like I'm sure this is across the board with other species of lizards and monitors, but depending on what you feed them, their appearance is gonna look different. So if you're feeding them things like high in carotenoids, for example, they're gonna have better coloration. They're going to be more vibrant. And so if you're feeding them romaine lettuce and bananas, they're probably going to be pretty dull. And so the way I know if I'm doing a good job with the way I'm feeding is by the way they look.
The insect or the animal, or both?
But well, both.
Both, right? Yeah, it's funny you say that because I have this new batch of grasshoppers because it's been about a month, like I said, since I've been feeding them, the diverse diet now. And now like these grasshoppers are like really light, white looking. They have spots. It's like they went from being kind of like a dullish brown to like almost a morph looking thing now. And I think it's the fucking diet, dude. Not even joking.
Well, and I think we sometimes forget that we need to feed our feeder insects. Like it's not just
they're not just there. That's hilarious.
You do need, you can't forget about those. It is a lot, to make salads, to keep your feeders in good health, to offer a variety. I mean, they get bored. The sailfins, for example, they definitely get bored. If you want to feed them the same thing every single day, they're gonna want something new eventually.
I had something that grinded my gears the other day, and I tried to not let it be known that it grinded my gears, but it kind of did, and I didn't give a fuck, because the guy saying this is somebody I respect. I love him. I'm not gonna say his name, but he was busting my balls because I was feeding my lace monitors ground turkey and egg. They love it. They fucking love it. And he was like, well, watch how they shit. They shit so disgusting. So, okay, so clean it. What's the fucking problem? I mean, I don't see the big difference between their bird shits and their rat shit. It's shit. It's all needs to be clean. But I'm like, so is that a reason not to give a diverse diet to something because what it shits out? When I'm thinking, here's the one thing that's a lot of, and nothing against monitor keepers out there, but a lot of them just stick to rodent diets. They just like to fucking feed and that's not good, dude. I don't give a fuck what you think. But some of that shit is not okay. You got to switch it up every now and then. And my monitor mentor, shout out to Sim Container, they taught me how to keep shit diverse. You want to just always keep it diverse, especially Kai, my grasshopper buddy. Like he's a great monitor breeder too. But it always, if you really want healthy production, it all lies on the diet, dude. It relies on how you feed it, when you feed it, and that's it. And some people get good production off a female monitor based off them blasting it with food, but how long does that female live for?
Well, and I don't want to be mean, but it's kind of common sense. Like, think about your diet as a human being. I mean, we need diversity.
No comment.
You ate the same thing for every meal every day. You would be unhealthy even if it was the healthiest of food. You need diversity. So like, I always keep that in mind when I'm feeding my reptiles too. It's like, well, would I want to eat like that? No.
You want to know how slow I am to life? I mean, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I don't give a fuck. Years. I love food. Like I love food, Kasey. Like I love food. Okay. Like it's bad, but I love food to the point where it was making me feel miserable. And I didn't even realize it. Like I didn't realize what I was eating was what putting me in a bad mood. You know what I mean? And dude, your body, like the babe, I mean, think about how if an animal needs a certain diet to perform a certain way or to be the best animal could be, imagine imagine you doing that same way. And I feel like there's not enough Americans who take care of their bodies like that. And I'm one of them. Trust me, I'm 37 years old now, almost at 36. I wish I just turned 37. But I'm 37 years old and I'm starting to realize foods that make me feel bad, I stay away from. Yeah. Okay. But here I am already knowing that with animals. Like I just, there's like such a weird thing with humans. And I'm not saying all humans, people like myself who just don't see like how we feel is based off what we eat. Everything, how we think, how we move, how everything is functioning. And it's the same way with an animal. You know what I mean? Like
it absolutely is. Like I wish that we would think about that a little more. Your productivity level throughout the day depends on what you're giving your body.
Yeah.
So if you want to look at let's just say it's a Salfin dragon or any lizard that you're breeding, if it doesn't feel good, it's probably not going to breed for you.
Or breed good, or like give you
or breed good. Absolutely. So I mean, their diet affects, just like a human, so many components of their life. And I mean, not to jump to pythons, but I used to, not really thinking much about this or knowing much about this, feed a lot of rats to like my asperities, for example. Now I feed mostly quail and occasional mice because of the fat content in a rat. Like, they're not going to breed successfully, or if at all, if they're super overweight.
And
So
and here's the thing, like
all that.
Kasey, there's reptiles that can breed overweight, but it doesn't mean we should do it. That's the thing, and that's why I much rather this is why I'm so keen on ball python breeders only breeding ball pythons. They should dabble into something that's more thought put into what you're feeding it, because it'll make you make you look at your ball pythons like, why am I feeding my ball pythons this much? Like, nothing needs this much food. Like, if you really look at it, there's these snakes producing, I mean, I don't want to say like the same result of eggs, but there's still snakes that lay eggs on limited amount of food in the wild. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, I mean, we just don't need to overdo it. And I feel like a lot of people are talking about this more. They're more accepting to it. I mean, I've had, I don't know how many ball python breeders I talk to now that switch to like once every 2 weeks. You know what I mean? And I'm like, and they're still having the same results. And I feel like, wow, I just feel like as Americans, it's hard to do because we just think eat. You know what I'm saying? But dude, it's not always the case, man. Like, I think we just need to pump the brakes a little bit.
Well, and the reality is, I mean, if you're talking about certain species of snakes, like, their food is not that readily available. They're not going to be eating consistently every 5 days or every week. Now, that whether that's right or wrong, I understand that we should be giving them better care in captivity. But there is something to be said about their hardiness at some level. Like, you don't want to starve them, but also mixing it up too. Like, maybe you do every week and then you do every 2 or 3 weeks. Like, I do that with my Woma pythons every once in a while.
Okay, so you brought up the Womas. I'm glad you did, because we need to tap into that big time. That's, you gotta understand. I've been pulled so many different directions. You can hear me, right? Just for okay. Yeah. I've been pulled so many different directions since coming into the ball python game as a breeder, and now I'm into chondros, I'm into emeralds. But dude, you know how bad I was into blackheads, and like almost having that, and then I just put time into how many people have bred them, and that meant, as far as I saw how low that of a number that was, it made me want to get into them even more. But not an easy species to work with, from what I understand. Correct? Like, it's not a walk through the park type of project.
I think they're an easy species to keep, but certainly not. I wouldn't even say they're a difficult species to breed. They're just a complicated and non-consistent, in my experience, species to breed. I've bred Woma pythons, I don't even know how many clutches of Woma pythons eggs I've had now, and there has been zero consistency with the hatch rate. Now, I just had a successful clutch of blackhead pythons this past week, but I had zero expectations for that happening. I have people asking me, what did you do? What was your technique? I'm like, I have no idea. I think there is a few things I've learned, but I do think that they are known to be difficult, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, or just inconsistent with the eggs. Now, with that being said, there are a few people Jason Hood is one off the top of my head that has consistently produced successful clutches of blackhead eggs.
Year after year?
Year after year, and multiple in a year. So I don't know what the key is. Some of these breeders that have been successful are very open on these Facebook groups. They tell you, they'll give you advice. They'll tell you exactly how they do it. You try to do that in your personal collection and it doesn't work. So it makes it a little bit exciting, but it's also kind of discouraging at times to work with. So I had this clutch of blackhead eggs that was successful, but if I breed them again next year, will I be successful? I don't know. This doesn't make me feel super confident. It's great that it worked out.
Let's talk about the background on the pairing that went for you. Like, how long have you had that pair for? I mean, were they already old when you got them? Let's talk about that real quick.
So I have just one pair of black-headed pythons. The male I got as an adult, he's got to be 12 years old now.
Okay.
Apparently he, from what I've heard, maybe has a little bit of a Swiss line in him. And the female I got when she was a little less than a year old from Jason Hood, and he is she is from his Swiss line outcross project. So I gave it a try and I was successful. Like the fact that he even got eggs the first year was crazy. This year, I feel like I don't even want to say it out loud.
I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's crazy because who you got them from. Everything's fucking laid out because first off, maturity is always on your side when it comes to shit like this. If you have something that is, healthy, it's been fine, just not really bred, that's a good thing. I think it's fucking ready to rock and roll. But then on the other flip, you're getting this from somebody who's the only one breeding them. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to take any credit away from you. I still feel like it was still up to you to pair them. But the thing is, it's all about where these animals come from. Like there was a guy who fucking pulled a Moluccan clutch out of his ass last year. You know what I'm saying? Moluccan scrub python. And no, I don't know when the last time anyone privately has bred a Moluccan scrub python clutch, but it happened. And it happened with two very old mature animals that he just happened to get his hands on. And dude, that's just how it works sometimes. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't think this was going to be a story where, you had a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old black Lomas, blackheads that you paired up and they produce. I knew there was like a deeper thing to it,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely started off with a good pair on my side. Now, feeding is a whole other obstacle from what I've been told.
Let's talk about that.
Because I got them out of the egg, I think I have a whole other challenge ahead of me. So hopefully I can get them all to feed. But yeah, I've been pretty lucky in my room this year. With that being said, if anyone's listening here and is breeding black-headed pythons, I feel like I do have a little key or trick that I've learned that I think helped me and potentially saved my eggs this year. Lucas Lee from Centralian Exotics told me about this. He also produced his first clutch of black-headed python eggs, and most of them did not make it. And as soon as he saw that I had a clutch getting put in the incubator, he messaged me and said, hey, keep an eye out for this. And so some python eggs, you don't need to worry about where the embryo is. It'll migrate to the top of the egg. But with black-headed python eggs, I made sure they were all at the top because they're not great at migrating. And so we have this theory that our eggs get too much moisture for Woma and blackhead python eggs, and they get really wet. But I'm not sure if it has anything to do with moisture and wetness, if it's maybe that the embryo didn't migrate to the top of the egg. I'm just throwing this out there. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
So what are you like candling it to see where it's at, and you're just rotating it each time?
Yep. So every single one of those eggs was perfectly with the embryo on top. And I'm just looking back.
Kasey, can I hit the pause button real quick? Okay.
Sure.
Without doing that rotation to the embryo, what happens to the egg, or what's happening to these eggs? They're what? Can you explain to me what's happening to them?
So the thought process is that if you don't put the embryo at the top of the egg, for whatever reason, maybe blackhead python and Woma python embryos aren't able to migrate up to the top on their own. Like,
so are they dying? Are they dying fully developed in the egg type of thing? Is what you're saying?
No. So sometimes, but other times the eggs like 2 days in become this, like, it almost looks like they got sprayed with water. So everyone thinks, oh, I have too much humidity, too much moisture in my incubation.
No, it's sweating.
I don't know if that's true.
I mean,
I don't know. It's kind of a mystery.
One of the biggest mysteries I will say too with breeding chondros is, like, for instance, me this year, I had 13 that went the distance. Okay. Yeah. There's, stipulations that I may have cut them too early. Okay. Debatable. But regardless, I know I saw 11 moving snakes. They were alive. Next thing you know, the next day 3 died. Then the next day 6 died. And then 3 more died. And I lost almost all of them but 3. And these were fully developed. Some of them, like, you could tell, like, just like they had their head tucked into the yolk sac. But it's like, I don't know. But I'm curious if that's could have been it too. Like, if you need to rotate it at a certain point or something. Because I don't rotate shit. I leave them alone. Obviously the way they're laid, I mark them and I put them away, and that's it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's people laughing at me right now because I have no idea what I'm talking about. This is just my theory. But I also have had experience with, I've lost like 2 clutches, maybe not a full clutch, but majority of eggs of Woma pythons to a very similar experience where it's like the last week or last 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, I mean, there's babies, fully formed babies in there, and all the eggs go bad. And I cut them open and I look, and I mean, there's nothing, there's no deformities. You don't know. You have no idea at that point what the problem was, but that's tough.
So basically, let's walk through this real quick. Okay. And obviously you're not saying this is what you have to do. This is what I'm just trying to get an idea on how you do this. But is there a certain point throughout on how many days when the clutch is already laid where you start to look at this embryo, or are you looking every day? How often are you checking to see if this embryo is moving?
Well, if you have it on top, it shouldn't be moving. Like the
meaning check right off the bat, meaning like
when I'm pulling them out of the enclosure and putting them in the incubation. Sorry, I should have specified here. Putting them in the incubation container. That's the time that I'm making sure that embryo's on top.
Okay.
So I'm going to try this moving forward. Obviously, if I have no problems with Womas or blackhead python eggs in the future, and I'm doing this, that would be, that would make sense to me that this theory was correct. But yeah, I've definitely, the first year I bred my Woma pythons, every single egg hatched. It was perfect. Then the next year, the whole clutch went bad. And then after that, it was like some clutches were half and half. And so like, it's just one of those things where even last year, I did 4 different incubation containers. I've been using sim containers for like 3 years now. I love them. But I did different substrate in each one, like set up the eggs differently. It was like, okay, this is going to be an experiment to see which one works. Some maybe had more of a higher moisture substrate in them, others less. And I kept track of everything, and all of them had similar issues. So I was like, well, it's, I don't know. I can't put my finger on what it is with the Aspidites and the eggs.
Well, here's another fucking myth buster, because I talk about how things I was told since I came into this, and when you tell me something, I go, okay, and I'll do it, and I'll fucking do it to the 10th power, like, feeding your snake once a week, no matter what, like, no, that's not the case, right? But going back to, this egg rotation, like I was told, once the clutch is laid, you mark it and you just put it as it's laid, but that's not the case. Because you're saying sometimes the embryo is placed differently. And what I'm going to show right now, I had a buddy of mine who I know who breeds ball pythons, and I've never seen this done. I mean, I'm sure somebody's done it, but not to my attention. But if you notice what he's doing right here, he's doing exactly what you were talking about. So he just had this clutch of eggs, as you can see right there, right? And he's rotating it. You see how he's rotating it? You see how he's using the light, and then he's like rotating the egg?
Yep, that's exactly what I did.
Okay, so look at my comment. Now I look like an asshole because I'm like, do these to chondro eggs and you could kiss those babies goodbye. Like literally, because I thought like if you rotate those motherfuckers, you're fucked. But
so I'm only speaking for the Aspidites. I do know that like you cannot do this for every species, and that there are some python eggs or whatever eggs that you just need to let go, and they take care of migrating themselves.
But if we're having a problem, like you're saying, with these fully developed animals that are fucking just, why is it dead in the egg? It looks great. I mean, is it going to hurt to fucking try it? Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, think about it. There's people with a high, like myself, a high percentage where you get these fully developed. It's more fully developed dead than fully developed alive. You see what I'm saying? So there has to be something here. And like I said, I appreciate how you're speaking on your own experience with your own snakes. But I'm just trying to connect some dots here, and I'm trying to figure this out.
Listening to this that has some knowledge about this, or agrees or has disagreements, like I'd love to hear about it, because this is something that I'd definitely like to figure out, if it's something you can even figure out.
I mean, because also too, I mean, I never even thought about the rotation of the ball python egg, because I have great success with hatching ball pythons. I don't have any issues. Actually, yeah. I hatch a lot of females actually. So, I mean, I never thought once to even rotate it. That's why when I saw him do it, I was like, why would he rotate it? Like, I don't, aren't you supposed to just leave it as is? But now I can't hate on him for doing it because, you know, there's probably some study behind on it being more successful, or maybe it's more successful for him. I don't know. Either way, I'm going to reach out to the homie and be like, yo, I'm going to respect your practices.
Yeah. Well,
I love it though. Like, dude, this is what I love. This is what I love this shit. Fuck the standard. I want to see some shit to learn how we could do better. Like this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and no one's saying that they know, oh, that's, you know, that's wrong or that's right. It's just like we're all trying to learn and we're all trying to be successful. I had, for the first time ever, I also bred my olive pythons this season.
Dude,
and
congrats. I saw that. That is another huge bucket list thing, man. That's huge.
Those
Congrats.
eggs I just threw in the kit. Like, I didn't rotate or anything, and they did fine. She only laid 2 eggs that were viable. And I also bred my Sumatran short-tailed python pair for the first time this year. And I had 9 or 10 eggs, and all of them hatched. So
damn.
I'm feeling good this year. I feel like it's something bad has to happen. But
Zion Hill is on fire.
but I had no success with my Woma pythons. This was the year I was giving majority of my females off. So I was only breeding 2 of my females. 1 laid all infertile eggs, and the other female, she had to have reabsorbed the eggs. I mean, she was even showing all the signs of ovulation and just never gave me eggs. So,
I mean, but you've already bred them. So that's, I mean, you got that next year. So no big deal.
yeah, hopefully.
All right. So check it out. I have a wrap up question before we get into some hot seat questions. Okay.
Sure.
And I'm curious because if it's one thing that somebody taught me from the beginning was, you know, try to be as diverse as you can, because diversity is your best friend. You know, if you have it down, diversity is your best friend. But for anyone out there who's just like into this, either just now or been in this for a while and is scared to dabble to other things for whatever reason, what's your suggestion behind working with more than just one species? I mean, do you feel like you almost owe it to yourself to want to dabble into something else, or what's your opinion behind that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I do think we all go through this phase where we just get into too many things. We get in over our head. There's value in that though, because I think it makes you take a step back and really realize what you want to focus on. If you don't add things to your collection, now, like, not too many things, but if you don't kind of experiment, you'll never know what you might be really into or passionate about.
Facts.
I literally went from never even wanting to see a snake in person when I was a child to now owning like an olive python. They're massive. And it was just like one of those things where I was like, I think I'm interested in that. I'm going to get them. I hope I like them. And they're one of my favorite species of snakes now. So I think there's value in like conservatively experimenting with new reptiles.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm mostly excited to see exactly where this leads you, because I mean, you're doing all this in a temporary situation. Like, you know, you're not really completely settled where you're going to be at, but you're still making things happen. And I feel like that's, I mean, at the end of the day, like, you're not even peaked on what you're potentially going to be doing for this industry yet. So to see like these projects kind of starting to happen for you right now, it kind of, I hope it's motivating you or getting you excited for what's to come, Kasey, because I feel like there's gonna be some big things popping coming from your projects for sure.
I appreciate that. I do think that having this little bit of success this year just reiterates the fact that I'm working with the species I want to work with. Like right now, I have zero desire to add anything else other than more of what I currently have, which is a really good feeling. That means I'm satisfied with what I'm working with.
For now.
For now. Yeah, that'll change in like a year or 6 months, but for today.
Oh shit. Sometimes I feel like it's on the day, you know, because I hate when people ask me, what's your favorite thing you work with? Depends on the day. I don't fucking know. Like, I'm so back and forth. I mean, I do know my favorite is what's in this room. So it's either an emerald, a green tree, or maybe my green tree monitor. I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, I mean, we're just talking about monitors. Nothing compares to lace monitors. I mean, for me, opinion, I mean, because that's all I've worked with. I mean, I do have green tree monitors, but raising these fucking monitors, and I'm sure it's the same thing with the Salfins. It's like raising a fucking dog. You know what I mean? Like, because they are so alert. Like, they know you're there. You know, it's like they know you're in the room before you know you're in the room. It's like it's kind of something where you have to understand the level of respect that these fucking things need, or they will run all over you. You know what I'm saying? So I just love it. Like,
they know, like, I don't know how it is with your monitors, but my Salfins know me. Like, if my husband or someone else walks into that room, they freak out. And if I walk into the room and open the enclosure, they're like, okay, whatever.
We're good. Yeah.
Which is crazy.
It just shows how much time you spend with them. They're not stupid, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Listen, what an amazing episode. 2 hours went by super fast. And like you said, I could at least go another 6. I mean, we have so much more we can still talk about. But guess what? I'll have you back on, no problem. Round 2 worthy all day, every day. But got hot seat questions for you. You're not out of it just yet, okay?
I'll try my best.
Hot seat questions for Kasey, Zion, and Hill Exotics. Do your best not to give me an explanation. I don't need an explanation. I just need the answer, okay? You ready?
Okay.
Here we go. Coming in hot. Frozen thawed or live?
Frozen thawed.
A cut or no cut?
What does that even mean?
Would you cut an egg? Like snip, snip, snip? Or would you not cut an egg?
No cut. No cut.
Red Chondro Neo or yellow Chondro Neo?
Red.
Pre-first shed meal or post-first shed meal?
Post.
Yay imports or boo imports?
Yay, but with an exception.
It's either yes or no. If you had to make the call.
I'll go with yes.
One reptile you would import to your collection anywhere around the world, what would it be?
More Microlophus, Salfin Dragons.
One reptile nobody should ever import ever again. Leave it alone. Don't touch it.
Oh, boy. Can I just go with no comment? I don't even know on that one.
No, you can't, actually. I need something.
Oh, my gosh. Probably just...
It could be any animal. It could be a fucking monkey. I don't care. It could be any animal. Like, what? Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
I could think of a million.
More ball pythons, bearded dragons, geckos. Sorry.
You're saying leave them alone, right?
I think we have enough.
Yeah, Dave Kaufman, listen up. I'm just kidding.
Not just...
Yay sports or boo sports?
Boo sports.
Steak or fish?
Steak.
Yay alcohol or boo alcohol?
100% yay. I need alcohol right now. It's been too long.
Dude, I feel bad. I should have told you should get a drink because I'm like too deep on these Bloody Marys and I feel great.
If I wasn't pregnant, I'd be.
Oh, that's right. Hello. What am I thinking? Sorry. I take that back. Terrible parent. Good thing I'm not a parent. All right. Where was we? Did I just say sport? Oh, we did alcohol. Okay. Van Halen or Sammy Hagar?
Van Halen.
West Coast rap or East Coast rap?
No rap. Sorry.
Respect. Take it. I'll take it. I don't even need an answer. It's fine. Little word association. First thing to come to mind. Milk.
Jug. That's the first thing.
So great. I love it. Oh my God. I've never heard jug before. That was great. Where was I? Substrate.
Cyprus.
FedEx shipping.
Ship your reptiles.
First time ball python breeder.
Oh. Can that just be my word?
Totally.
Okay.
Instagram trolls.
Another just ugh.
If you had to get rid of one platform forever, and I mean forever, is it going to be Instagram or Facebook? Which one has to go?
Facebook.
Holy shit. I couldn't agree more. Listen, Kasey, you are killing it. I love bringing females to the platform because I don't bring enough of them. But when I do, they never miss. And guess what? This one was a big hit. I got to say, awesome 2 hours. Thank you for all the knowledge. Thank you for your passion behind these animals. I mean, honestly, this is just all inspiring for people who really love their animals because it all spreads. You know what I'm saying? And just by hearing you talk, you know you're not full of shit. There's no faking what you do. So I got to say, we had over 60 people tapped in at one point for this live. What do you have to say to everyone who was in here listening, motivated, and inspired by your work?
Thank you for listening, and I'm learning. So if anyone wants to reach out and talk about anything I said, disagree or agree, that's what I like to do.
There you go, 100%. There you, Kasey. It's a wrap. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time on for round 2. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Zion Hills Exotics, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Kasey. Have a good night. Okay, I'll see you later.
Thank you.
Peace out. Wow, what an amazing 2 hours. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on your Sunday. What a beautiful Sunday. But guys, if you tapped in, did not hit the like button for the homegirl Kasey, let's get the like, making sure my volume's still working. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but not really. When have I ever had technical difficulties? Nothing. Never. So deal with it. It is what it is. I'm sorry to the guest. I ain't sorry to you guys. Just kidding. I love you guys. Awesome times. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. That way you're on top of every single reptile podcast I drop here on Trap Talk with MJ. Yeah, follow me on Instagram, MJ Exotics Cartel with an A, not an E. And then shout out to my Patreon members. It is Zoom session time for my Patreon Zoom session call. Let's go, guys. If you are in the Patreon family, you know what to do. I'll see you guys in just a second. If you out there want to tap in with the Trap family, if you want to get tapped in more behind the scenes VIP type content, then go down to the link below, join the Trap Talk Patreon link family, and come join us on the Zoom session because it's about to get lit. Kasey, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. Keep killing it. And again, tomorrow, New Breeder on the Block series, my boy Mike from 1776 Exotics. Thank you guys so much. Have a good night, and I'm out. Cheers.